Yes. Oh, kidnapping.
I don't know, why did it start to go? What did you do?
Okay, that's not getting bored. If you want to aid together, there's a way to do it. You have to go to the. Then they, then they'll.
What did you bring on another food?
Was guilty, was involved. Yeah, that's involved.
I don't want free falafel. I never got free falafel. Why did you That's the way you pick up
A good Tavach, the Gemara tells us on Daf Mem Gimel Amud Beis. The Gemara tells us a halacha from Shmuel. Shmuel said that when you give a mashkin, the mashkin is connected to chayv. It's not as a payment for the chayv; it's like a handle to the chayv. And therefore, if the malva loses the mashkin, you can no longer collect the chayv. The Gemara suggested on the bottom of Mem Gimel the base, let's say that the halacha of Shmuel is totally in a machloikis tanoim. That's mommy not to talk, but I'll talk loud, I'll alone. It says in the Mishnah, our Mishnah, if someone lends somebody money for a mashkin, the mashkin got lost. The halach is Yishava v'yita las ma'osav dither Rabbi Eliezer. He could swear that he lost the mashkin, and then he could still collect. Clearly not consistent with rule. Rabbi Kiva Omer, Yochalu sheyomer loy. He could tell him, Klum hilvisani ela la mashkin. The whole loan was based on the mashkin. Over a mashkin, since you lost the mashkin, you now lost your schus to be able to collect money. Aval hamalva elef zuz bishtar and v'heniach mashkin biyodai. But what if you left the mashkin and there was a star? So this shows that the star was what's going to be the reminder to make him collect, and the mashkin is a shtickle surety like a peroin. Divra kol over a mashkin of the moisa. There it's klar because the mashkin is clearly connected the chayv. So everybody would agree there that avad hamashkin avad moisav, because he can't say that it's just to make sure that he gets paid, because for that he already has the shtar. So Zok to Gemara, this seems to be totally in a machloikis between Shmuel and the Chacham. So frankly, this discussion between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Kiva, either shavi shir zuzah, if the mashkin is worth the full amount of the choiv, Zok to Gemara. Let's turn now on to our daf, which is Mem Dalet Amud Aleph. My time made the Rabbi Eliezer. Why in the world would Rabbi Eliezer say that you have to pay still? Yishva v'yishava. The mashkin was lost, and because of that, the malva for sure owes the full amount. Ella lav b'daloi shavishuz. The discussion must be in a case where the mashkin isn't worth the full amount, and the question is, if you don't have the mashkin, do you have a right to collect anymore? Which is exactly what the Shmuel Kamivvi. That's exactly the machloikis of Shmuel Salaf. And therefore, Rashi explains what's the machloikis. Rabbi Eliezer, lastly the Shmuel. Rabbi Eliezer doesn't hold of Shmuel, and therefore he holds the mashkin she'ena shava kolachoid. If the mashkin isn't worth the full amount of the choid, ein other makabloid ella lizikarin devarim. A person's only makabel them just as a reminder. But it's not the key. It's not the key to the collection. The malva is no different than a sharp mechinam, and all you need to do is show that there's no pshia. And v'sheini b'rishusai. So he has to swear he wasn't peshaya, like every sharp mechinam. He has to swear that's not b'rishusai, and then the yitel kol ma'isa. He'll be able to collect the full amount. Why? Because he's potter on the mashkin. Rabbi Kiva, Shmuel Svili, and Rabbi Kiva would hold like Shmuel. Shalashem mashkin kibli. He has it b'taris mashkin, meaning that's zikaron ba'alma. It's the oiv itself that he sold, and therefore, if he doesn't have the mashkin, he can no longer collect it. Aval hilveu elav zuz b'shtar, but if there was a star as well, then afilu Rabbi Eliezer moida chamashkin shekibel achre kain l'shem mashkin kibel. If there's a star, you can no longer say that the mashkin is zikaron devarim ba'alma like Rabbi Eliezer had, because that's what the star is for. So kum dechois, the mashkin must be the tfisa of the choiv, even according to Rabbi Eliezer. L'shem mashkin kibloi kari einit tzarich lo zikaron devarim shehas star lo l'rayah. So therefore, even Rabbi Eliezer would be moida that if there was a star involved, that you would be potter from paying back the whole chayv. So I'm just going to go back to the bottom of Mem Gimel Amud Beis, so that we see that inside the lashon of the Mishnah. So Zok, the lashon of the price of it. So let's look all the way down to the bottom of Mem Gimel Amud Beis, and at the bottom of Mem Gimel Beis it says, I'm sorry. Avo in the case Hamalva Elav Zuz Bishtar V'niach Mashkin B'Yodai. So there was a star and a Mashkin. Divra Koil Oven a Mashkin of the Moisa, because even Rabbi Eliezer holds that this Mashkin is not the Zikar and Devarim Ba'alma. Rather, this Mashkin is the Tvisa, the Choiv. It's the place to mon from, and since you don't have the Mashkin anymore, since the Malva lost the Mashkin, he lost his right to collect anything at all. Okay, so now let's go back to Daf Mem Dalin Amud Aleph, which is where we are home. So Zok to Gemara, maybe you don't have a riot that this is the Machlokes Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Kiva is about Shmuel Salach. Maybe that's not the case. Why? Because Zok to Gemara, Loi on the second line, the last word of the second line of Mem Dalin Amud Aleph, Loi v'deloi shavi. If the mashkin was not worth the full amount of the chayv, maybe kula alma less lahu d'shmu. Maybe nobody holds like Shmuel, and everybody holds that the mashkin is zikron devarim ba'alma, and if you don't have the mashkin, you still get the collect. V'hacha Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Kiva is machlokes is b'deshavi shir zuzay. It's worth the full amount. So the Gemara had a question: if it's worth the full amount, what exactly, according to Rabbi Eliezer, are you being mechayiv? So Gemara the teretz is over the Rabbi Yitzchak kamevli. The Omer Rabbi Yitzchak minayin lebachayiv shekoyne mashkin. How do you know that the bachayiv is koyne the mashkin, and would therefore make him be mechayiv even on oinsin? Shenema ulecha atiyat tzedakah. If you give the mashkin back at night when he needs it, or by day when he needs it, depending on what type of mashkin it was. Freik the Gemara, freik Rabbi Yitzchak imeinay koyne mashkin. If the Bachayiv is not kind of the mashkin, tzedakah minayin. What type of tzedakah are you giving him back his own thing? Mikan, you see from here, the Bachayiv shekoyne mashkin, and therefore he would be mechuyev in oinsin. So therefore, let's say the machlokes is as follows. As Rashi says, Rabbi Eliezer less like Rabbi Yitzchak. He doesn't hold like Rabbi Yitzchak, and I'm not mechuyev in oinsin. Ve'enoi olav ela shomer china. I'm only a shomer china, and therefore, even though it's a mashkin gomer, I'm only a shomer china. And if it gets lost, I swear that it was Nignava, I swear that it wasn't B'Sheya, I swear that it's Ein B'Shuscha, and then I'm potter, but I can still claim the full amount. Rabbi Kiva says, no, you're chayiv anointed, but chayiv koine mashkin, and therefore you don't get to collect. Zok Gemara, so if that's the case, then earlier we said maybe Shmuel is told in Machlokes Noim, now we'll say, Leimad Rabbi Yitzchak Tanoi. It seems like the way we just explained the price, the machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Kiva is whether or not you hold like Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Eliezer does not hold like Rabbi Yitzchak, and Rabbi Kiva holds like Rabbi Yitzchak. The Bachai Koine Mashkin. Zot Gemara B'Tizbra, who said, "Eimer the Omer Rabbi Yitzchak shebishkedai b'shloi b'shasava." You know when Rabbi Yitzchak says Allah the Bachai Koine Mashkin, That's only not when at the beginning of the loan you give me a mashkin. They're lavdavka. But when I'm collecting because you're in default, and Besdin went in and seized your property to give to me, there it's mamash apiroyin. That's where Rabbi Yitzchak said b'achloif koydem mashkin. However, that's a mishkan shalom b'shas. But mishkan b'shas hava, which is the case that Rabbi Eliezer is talking in, it says amalvus chavar ala mashkin. Mi Amar, there he never said b'achloif koydem mashkin. So therefore, Rabbi Yitzchak would stim side with Rabbi Kiva and side with Rabbi Eliezer, because everybody holds over there that the b'achloif is not koydem the mashkin. So Rashi, Emud Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Where Bezin seizes the money or the property because the loiv is in default. That's what the pasuk that Rabbi Yitzchak is being medayik from. That's what the pasuk says. The so the shliach bezin is going to enforce the collection. That's where Rabbi Yitzchak said his halakha. So Zok Gemara, Eimer Damer Rabbi Yitzchak Shemishkanei Shaloi B'Shasava. That's what will be a chiyuv. But Mishkanei B'Shasava, Mi Amar, Elo Mishkanei Shaloi B'Shasava Osoi. Maybe Kula Amalei Pligi is to Rabbi Yitzchak. Maybe everybody holds like Rabbi Yitzchak. If everybody holds like Rabbi Yitzchak by Mishkanei Shaloi B'Shasava, and we're speaking of Mishkanei B'Shasava, what is the machlokes here? V'Hachav Mishkanei B'Shasava Osoi uB'Shomer Aveda Kamevu. Maybe here it's a whole different machlokes. I'm a balchoid, and I have a mashkin. This would be compared to if I found an aveda. What does being shomer and aveda have to do with a balchoid who has a mashkin? Very simple. A shomer aveda is doing a mitzvah. I'm involved in a mitzvah because I'm watching your aveda, and because of that, there's something called pudu Rabbi Yosy. If while I'm oisik with your aveda, I will save money because if a Meshulach knocks on the door, I can say, I'm part of giving you tzedakah now. I'm busy watching the Aveda. So similarly, when you give somebody a loan, you're doing a mitzvah. So Zok to Gemara, Ubishomer Aveda Kamevuk, Dietmar, Shomer Aveda, one who's watching an Aveda. Rabba Oimer, Amak Mechinam. He's like a Mechinam, and we don't consider the Prudu of Yoshi the fact that I might be able to save a penny from giving it to tzedakah. That's not a benefit to me, and therefore I'm a Mechinam. So therefore, I will be potter on Geneva Aveda. Let's turn on to Amid Beis. Rabbi Yosef Amar. Rabbi Yosef said it's Kishem Esachadami, and this is because of the prudent Rabbi Yosef, because you save money, you don't have to give tzedakah when you're busy with the Aveda. So Lema, let's see how this applies. This machlekes applies to the sugya mashkin. Lema Rabbi Yosef tonight. Let's say Rabbi Yosef is a machlekes tonight, meaning we have a shomer of a mashkin, a malva, who also is like someone who found an Aveda. He's also doing a mitzvah. He's lending somebody money. And the machlokes is where Rabbi Kiva holds that he's chayiv because he's treated like a shemer socher, and therefore he's chayiv on Geneva Aveda, and that's why he loses his money. And Rabbi Eliezer holds no, he can still collect because he's a shemer chinam, and since it's Geneva Aveda, he's potter, so he still gets collect his money. So frankly, more lame Rabbi Yosef Tanoihi. Let's say Rabbi Yosef is totally the machlokes Tanoim. He agrees with Rabbi Kiva, and Rabbi Eliezer argues with him. So K'merloi b'shomer Aveda the chul alma ismul Rabbi Yosef. By a shomer Aveda, maybe everybody holds prudent Rabbi Yosef is considered schar, and therefore a shomer Aveda is a shomer soch. V'hacha b'malva tzarich l'mashkin k'mivim. Here we're speaking about a case where it's not so simple to say that the malva is doing a mitzvah. Why? Because this malva lent money because he needed a lawnmower, and the loiva had a lawnmower that he needed. So the malva said, "I'm going to lend you money. I'm lending you $1,000, and I'm going to take your lawnmower as a mashkin, but every time I use your lawnmower, I'm going to pay you $50 rent." So it's slowly reducing from the choiv the value of his rental. And therefore, I'm not doing the mitzvah. The malva is not doing the mitzvah because he's doing it for his own benefit because he wants a use of a lawnmower. So that's a machlokes. Mar savar mitzvah kavik. One man holds it's still a mitzvah. So therefore, Rabbi Kiva holds it's still a mitzvah. Yes, I'm benefiting because I'm borrowing from him and I'm getting his mashkin. But at the end of the day, the whole thing I'm doing because I want to help a yid. I find a way to be able to help him because I can benefit from his lawnmower. But that's still a mitzvah, and therefore I'm still considered a shomer socher and I'm chayiv on kneva b'aveda. Umar sober lav mitzvah kovet. But Rebbe Lezer holds it's not considered a mitzvah. I'm considered a shomer chim. So Frek Ramban, okay, al tichoiv, I understand why Rebbe Eliezer would hold I'm kishomer mechinam because I'm not doing a mitzvah. But I'm a soicher. If I'm knocking off from the amount owed due to the fact that I'm using this lawnmower, so I'm a soicher. After that, I should be mechliv on ganeva b'aveda. So you're talking about in the chanami. But the case here is speaking where I don't need it anymore. So originally I did the deal where I'm going to use it. Now I don't need it anymore. So I can deliver. Really, I can give it back to you. I don't need it anymore. I have no benefit for it. So now it's a regular mashkin. It's a regular mashkin, and I'm not a soicher anymore. But this whole scenario started based on me needing the mashkin, and therefore you have the machlokes as to whether or not a malva who needs the mashkin and is going to use the mashkin and benefit from the mashkin if he's still considered doing a mitzvah in giving a loan. Beautiful. Once again, let's see if we could find a machlokes tanoim regarding the halach of Shmuel, and that is a mashkin acts as holding the chayv, and if you lose the mashkin, you lost the entire chayv, and you can no longer collect it. The Brisa says, if you lend somebody money and he gives you a mashkin, and now Shemitah arrives, which is normally Mishamet Chayvos. It says Lois Yigosh, you're not allowed to approach the loiva for collection once Shemitah passes. Zok the Mishnah or Zok the Brisa Afal Pi She'enoi Shava Ela Palno, even though the amount of the mashkin is only worth $500 and you lent him 1,000, Enoi Mishamet, it will not be Mishamet Chayv because I don't have to collect from you. I'm holding your mashkin. I'm pre-collect. Divei Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. But Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Omer, if the mashkin was the same value of the choiv, only there to the mishamet. So I lent you $1,000 and I'm holding $1,000 on mashkin. But the malav, if it's not worth $1,000, mishamet. So let's get a clear understanding of what this machlokes is between Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel and Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and let's drill down to know the precise situation. My ein mishamet dik omar tanakam. The Tanakama says if you have a mashkin that's not mishamet, what exactly is the case? If what it means is if I have a mashkin for $500 and the loan is for 1,000, the 500 is not mishamet, but the other 500 where I'm not holding on to, that is mishamet. But if that is the position of the Tanakama, meaning of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, well then Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi must hold. But if I'm not mishamet, mashmit's mishamet everything. But the problem is why? Ella, am I toughest mashkin? Why in the world was I toughest to mashkin if I'm not? It doesn't mean anything. If it's going to even be mishamet, the $500 that's the value of the mashkin. So then why am I holding the mashkin for? Ella lab keneged kula. It must be that according to Rabbi Yehuda, if I have a mashkin that's worth a full $1,000, I have a mashkin that's worth a full $1,000. According to Rabbi Gamliel, it's Eid Mishamet, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, it is Mishamet. Ultimately, Tanakama Sabar Kinegdoi, the Tanakama holds that whatever the mashkin is worth, that's considered toughest. So if it's $1,000, it's the whole chayv. If it's $500, half the chayv, and the rest is mishamet. Rabbi Nasi Sabar Kinegdoi Nami Mishamet, even Kineged the mashkin is mishamet. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped. So I mixed everything up. So let's start again. Hamavish chaver lamashkin v'nichnas hashmita. Apal bi she'enoi shava elapalga. Even though the mashkin is only worth half of the loan, it's only worth 500 out of 1,000. Eina mishamet. Divei Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Amar im hayi mishkoine keneged chayva eina mishamet. V'melav mishamet. So my eina mishamet to come with Tanakama. The Tanakama says I have a mashkin that's worth $500. It's not mishamet. What is it? Not mishamet. If what it means it's not mishamet to 500, but the other 500 it is mishamet, that means Mechlal the Rida Nasi Shavar Keneged Nami Mishamet. That means that according to Rabbi Yehuda Nossi, even the $500 of which I'm holding the mashkin is mishamet. So if that's the case, my toughest mashkin, what exactly is the mashkin doing? As Rashi says, the tafas l'may tafas. What did he schlep the mashkin for? Im lav l'mashkin miyos tahu padla. At least he took it so he could be in possession of 500. And if you're going to say Shavuos and Mishamet, then there's no purpose of being Tavis and Mashkin. Elolav connected Kula. It must be that Rabbi Yehuda holds that the Tanakama holds, even if I have a Mashkin worth 500, it's not Mishamet entire Choyev. I can collect the full 1,000. And according to Rabbi Yehuda Nossi, I can only collect what the money the mashkin is worth. So that shows it to Machlokes of Shmuel. Because according to Shmuel, you don't look at the value. The mashkin is connected to the entire chayiv. So therefore, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel holds, just like Shmuel, the mashkin is connected to the entire chayiv. Whether or not the chayiv is worth more or less is irrelevant. When you're holding the mashkin, you're holding the chayiv. But Rabbi Yehuda Nossi holds, no, you're not holding the whole chayiv. Whatever its value is, that's what you have. And that's a clear indication of the machlokes is about Allah of Shmuel. When you're holding the mashkin, are you holding the entire chayiv? Zok, you don't have a right. Loy loylam connected. Maybe even Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel holds that not like Shmuel, where the mashkin is being held the whole chayiv. Rather, whatever you have in the mashkin, that's what you can continue to collect. But avada, the 500 that you don't have a mashkin for will be nishmat on Shavuos. And Rabbi Yehuda Nossi holds that even for the 500 you can't collect. So you're going to ask, why does he have a mashkin? Rabbi Yehuda Nossi sover connected nami mishamet. I would come to my toughest light. The my toughest mashkin. So tomorrow the zikarin devarim ba'almo. I don't really believe I could collect from it, but nevertheless, it still reminds the loiva that he owes me the money. So zok to Gemara, connected nami mishamet lev mashkin ul zikarin devarim tafsing. He didn't take the mashkin because he actually intended to collect from it, which of course would make it that Shavuos would not mishamet. It's just the zikarin ba'alma, and therefore it doesn't help, and it's not like I'm holding on to my money, and therefore Shavuos is mishamet. Baruch Hashem, we were zoicha to finish Perek Shavuos Hadayonim, V'li neder hadin alach Shavuos Hadayonim, V'li neder hadin alach Shavuos Hadayonim, V'li neder hadin alach Shavuos Hadayonim, and now we're coming into the end of the Masechta. We're up to the 7th Perek of Shavuos. Zog the Heilige Mishnah. We're not going to be able to finish the whole Mishnah today. This Mishnah is almost a full blot, but we'll learn the Omer Aleph of the Mishnah. Zog the Heilige Mishnah. Kol HaNishboin Shebetayra. Whenever the Torah is Machayev Shavua, it's always to defend yourself from having to pay. Nishboin v'le Mishaman. For instance, I'm waiting to miktas. I'm Chayev Shavua. If I'm not going to make the Shavua, I have to pay up in full. However, there are some exceptions. There are a group of people who swear, and after they swear, they're able to collect due to their swearing. Haschir, an employee, where there's a dispute as to whether or not the employee was paid. And we're going to get into the details of the scenario soon. Vanigzal, sometimes a nigzal, who someone steals from him, he swears to determine how much the fellow owes him. And the other case is vanechbal, someone beat him up, and the question is, what was the value of the damages to him? And here you have a malva who's collecting from a loiva. The loiva was moed miktas, and the loiva now has to swear. But he's choshen al shvu, he can't swear, so therefore we have the malva swear to collect. Or when it's a question of credit that a chenevini extended and him collecting from the balabais, again, the Gemara, the Mishnah is going to deal later on with the details of this case. Hasachir, what is the case of the employee? Keta. At the end of the day, the employee went to the balabais and said, please pay me. You owe me my full pay. The employer says, I already paid you. And the employee says, I have not yet been paid. So the halach is the employee swears. The employer doesn't swear that I paid already to avoid paying again. Rather, the employee swears that he wasn't paid and then he has to collect. He will swear and pay. Now, this is even, you might ask a question, where do you have a shvua? Where do you see a chiv shvua if someone denies a koil? He's a koil for a koil. Where do you see a chiv shvua? So the Rabbanan are going to learn that there's a shvua derabbanan here. They made up a new shvua that the employee can swear. But the Yehuda no. Achidei sham mikzas haydah. There had to be a chiv shvua deraisa by dov mikzas, and the rabbanan takana is that instead of the nitva swearing, the taveh swears. Kate said, what's an example? Dinner. The employee said, you owe me 50 dinner. His kabalta dinar zav. You already got some. So the halacha is that case where there would normally be a shvus moedim and miktas on the nitva, on the balabais, it's transferred over to the employee, and the Gemara is going to explain why. Nigzal. Why does a nigzal swear? Where would that be relevant? Ketzad. They were Adim that saw someone illegally go by himself and seize property from a loiva. He's not allowed to do that. That's called gzela. Hu oimer, he says, Kela Nitalta. The loiva claims you took something of me that was worth $500. Hu oimer, the Malva said, Lo Nitalta, I didn't take anything. So we know that the Malva entered his premises. The question is, did the Malva take anything? Now, it's very reliable that they took something because Adam saw him break into the house. So then, who nishba v'noitel, we allow the loiva to swear and to collect the value of whatever property it is from the malva. Rabbi Yudah, the same thing. There's no special new shvua. Rather, only if the malva was moided that he took something. The loiva said, you took 2 kalim of mine. I only took 1 keli. That's a case where there would normally be a chiv shua on the nitfa. But the Rabbanan said that we transfer the shua over to the toiveya, to the loiva. Zog to Gemara weiter. What about the case of nechval? Zog to Gemara, nechval. Again, there's Adam that see that I went into someone's house and I was healthy, and I came out all banged up with a black eye. And the victim claims chaval to be, you beat me up. He said, I didn't beat you up. I don't know what happened to you. Maybe you tripped on the way out. Again, that's the case of nishpa v'noitel. And again, your Yehuda says only if there's a shvur deraisa will the rabbanan transfer it to the teveya. You punched me in both eyes. I only punched you once. That it would be a case where the bi'chi shvur on the nechva. And what about the case of shekeneg leichasad or shvur ketzad? Let's turn over on to Amud Beis. I'm sorry, not on Amud Beis, onto Mem Hey Amud Aleph. Because it doesn't mean if it doesn't matter if he swore falsely that he didn't know ages and he really did, or Shavuos and he swore that he didn't have the Bikot and he really did. Even if he made a Shavuos Shav, he swore on the Evan that it's Zov, or on Zov that it's Evan. He made a false Shavuah, he made a Shavuah that was prohibited, and therefore he cannot swear. Or if he was a Masachet Bekovia, or Malva Baribis, or Marfri Chayonim, or Soichri Shvius, in all those cases, Shekenegdoi, Chashuv, Shekenegdoi, Nishba V'noit. Okay, we'll stop here and we'll elaborate on this tomorrow when we learn the rest of the Mishnah. I want to wish everybody a good Mazel Tov, and our learning should be a schus for the Yidin Eretz Yisrael. They should be completely safe and protected by the Rebbeinu Shalom. Side the Yidin or in Eretz Yisrael that are suffering missile barrages. Side the Yidin in Eretz Yisrael that are fighting in all the different places to protect Klal Yisrael. The Rebbeinu Shalom should watch them and keep them safe and bring Klal Yisrael in the Tzachon and soon bring the Emes in the Tzachon of B'yas HaMashiach. A good Tavach.